Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Food, Wine, and Travel Show, where we go across country and travel the world with members of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. Let's go. So welcome, everyone. You know, every third Monday, every second Tuesday, every second Friday, we get to chat with writers and destinations that are all part of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association, and we call them IFWTWA. It's easier. And today we get to have Eileen Cotter Wright join us. She is the founder of Pure Wander, and we like that name. And I've got links into her articles that we're going to be talking about today, which is all about traveling as a family. So you can go to her website directly, purewander.com. But as always, all links are in the episode notes. So welcome, Eileen. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really good today. How are you?
Doing good. So now your background is traditional journalism. You've done some radio, you've done writing. So was your journalism background mostly in travel, or did you start, doing crime reports, obituaries? What was it?
Gosh, yeah,
I
that
put
just
crime
brought
and
me back.
obituary together.
I did in school 100 years ago. I remember doing accident report, my gosh, and all that. But when I graduated, it was during the recession. Things were a little bananas. So I ended up in insurance for a few years. But luckily, then pivoted and found content marketing, which was interesting because that's actually where I started. And then I worked for the travel department there. But that was cool SEO when you would just write a bunch of garbage, to be honest, and rank immediately. Anyway, I was writing about all these beautiful places, but I hadn't really been there. And I said, this is not what I should be doing right now. So I really took a leap of faith and I started to pitch magazines, and I got a couple breaks and was able to leave that job and did freelance travel writing for about a decade as my main gig. So that was great. In the middle of that, I did launch a blog as well. That was mostly for fun, but that has grown into the main brand at this point. That's been doing really well. So, yep.
Good name. Good name, too. Pure Wander.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that because it just feels so energizing. And travel is energizing. It's exhausting, but there's an energy you get. It's like a little adrenaline rush,
Oh, 100%.
And so, and that creativity. And I don't know, there's something, you can't take it away once you start. You can't take it away.
No.
It's a good thing.
As I evolved and grew older, or, I might not want to have that type of rush anymore, but I still love it. I still feel so passionate about it. And it's been really great to be able to now experience some of this through my young children as well, who have made me even more excited about getting to go to new places and seeing it all in a fresh way, which has been great.
So traveling with kids, because a lot of times people will put it off, like some things, don't you have to choose, like, are they going to understand, like, if you went to France and you go see some of the historic sites, they may not quite get it depending on their age. So do you choose according to their age and what they're going to actually soak up?
Sure. I think right in the beginning, if you're traveling with a baby or young children, I think you're still traveling for you because they're not going to remember. And that's kind of how I frame things. I say, listen, obviously you don't want to bring your baby to an environment that would be too much or or harmful or anything like that. However, when we did some trips early on, me and my husband, it was more just like the baby's real portable and maybe him and I want to go to a winery or we want to do something a little more slow paced because, obviously we still do have the baby, but the traveling experience is for us as well. So that's how I approached it when we were really small. And now that they're a bit more sentient, I have two daughters, they're 2 and 5. Let them kind of get in on the idea of where they might want to go, what they're studying in school. My daughter has gotten really into Disney movies revolving around Hawaii, and we thought maybe we can do that kind of adventure next year together.
Cool.
So, I definitely think about age appropriate, but one of the things at Pure Wander, you like to push outside of maybe what the norm is. Obviously, things like Disney World and Florida and all those things are great with kids, and we do that too. But I do think they're really adaptable to be able to go all sorts of different places. And we can do the kids' activities, but they also come along with the things we want to do too. Because in order to have a successful trip, everybody's got to be happy.
Oh, yeah. So that's it. Yeah. So planning a trip, you obviously were going to do what you need as well to do as a travel writer, right?
Mhm.
So you're covering a destination. A lot of times you're working with the actual visitor authorities and things like that. So there's, okay, we want to do this, but I love that you're doing it from the family perspective, because I think that gives destinations also kind of a, are we catering to families in the way that we should be? You know what I
Sure.
mean? It's like, are you family friendly? Like if you go to a winery, is there an area where you can maybe not be right up at the bar, you
Right.
know?
Yeah, we'll avoid the bar for a little bit. Yes, and in fact, I try to have these conversations with the tourism boards and DMOs that I work with, because I do think there's a little bit of, when I get maybe an itinerary after we've decided to work together, it's, children's museums and aquariums, and great, lovely, and we do want to hit all those, but I try to challenge them a little bit, like, well, what else do you think we can do outside of that together as a family? Is there maybe a more grown-up museum, but if your kids are able to be in those types of environments, let's also include that. Let's include a lot of outdoor time. That's great for all of the people involved in the trip. Just kind of thinking of some other things that you can do together as a family in restaurants that, yes, of course, ones that maybe have a kids menu, but at the same time, also have some adventurous flavors for the adults. And you might also be surprised the kids might order that as well if they're given the opportunity. And that's why, I think it's really important to try to find a balance if you can.
I like this because you're getting your kids to step up
Trying
and
to.
not,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's like, when like a baby's born, everybody starts doing the goo goo gaga talk to a baby,
Yeah.
which is fun and cute. And,
Sure.
but there's a line of, they do need to learn words. You know
Mhm,
what I mean?
mhm.
So isn't that
100%.
part of it with travel, is you can't really shy history away from them,
Sure.
and you've got to kind of just do it tenderly, I think,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, I mean, I try to let them take the lead, they're well, the 2-year-old's a bit feral right now, but the 5-year-old's definitely growing into it, and she's doing a great job, wanting to explore more things, and I really try to also find a balance between us being on the road and being home. So,
Mm,
if we go on a trip, we just did, Grand Rapids, Michigan together. We brought books home so that we could talk about some of the things we saw. It's a very artsy city, and we talked about some of those concepts. We even have a book about Frank Lloyd Wright that's for children with
mm-hmm.
opposites about the architecture and things. So I'm just constantly trying to draw connections between what we're seeing and how it's also, relaying into our everyday life. And I think hopefully that keeps them excited too. I want to make sure that there's always having fun so that we can all do this together, you know.
Yeah, no, Grand Rapids is super cool. We were there during COVID of all
Oh,
times. So we did the downtown. It was nice and quiet to walk, but they have wonderful public art. And then the bed and breakfast we stayed at was next to a Frank Lloyd Wright house that
mhm.
somebody, his apprentice, finished because he had a fight with the people, the owner of that. It's
Funny.
kind of common with
Mhm.
him. If you
Yeah, I've
don't
heard
do what
that.
I want, so The Apprentice finished it, but it was right next door and we kept like peeking over the wall. But that's a really cool city for them to learn, some of
Mhm.
the history and who's on the public art and all
Yeah.
of that.
We had a great time. We were there for Art Prize. It's their
Oh,
annual outside art festival where they put all these installations out by different artists, and actually people vote on them to, award prizes. It goes on for a while in the fall. So that was really great for the kids. We could be out. We got lucky with the weather and we got to be outside and just had a great
yeah.
time. They did really well. And it's so close to other outdoor, they have the big, I'm going to say it wrong, Mayer.
Frederick Meyer.
Yes, thank
It's
you.
beautiful.
That was my
That's
favorite part of
insane.
the whole trip.
Is
Yeah,
that
and
not the coolest
amazing. I
place
had no
ever?
idea.
I
The kids
know.
did great. They have a whole kids, children's
Mhm.
garden. Incredible,
I
but
liked it there.
they did everything there. Yeah, I did too.
We
You know?
went there and oh my gosh, you just brought, I've totally forgot about that. And it was one of the coolest things. It's one of the best botanical gardens we've ever been to.
So me too. Definitely in the very top 3. It was unbelievable. I had no idea. So I would go back just for that.
And seeing all the art out there.
Mhm.
I think it's one of the top 10 art
Yeah, it's been
destinations in the
voted.
world or something. Yeah, for sculpture. But did the kids section, it's
Mhm.
super fun. Didn't you want to play in there? Come on now.
I did. And, it
Yeah.
was warm, but not too well, they had a pool. I don't know what time of year you were there, but it's like
Hmm.
it's shaped like the Finger Lakes, and they had boats in it and things like
That's right. That's
Mhm.
right.
Love
Yeah.
that, but I was trying to keep it was, of course, the first thing we went to, and they're like, "Let's get soaked." I said, "Please, please not yet." But sure, they had the treehouse walkthrough and then the farm they love. I mean, who
That's
knew all
right.
that was out there? It was so great. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people I'm from the East Coast and I live outside of Boston, and I think a lot of people overlook, the Midwest for that. And there's a direct flight from Boston. It took 90 minutes to get there, and it was a whole new place for us. It was wonderful.
I'm so glad you said that because we
Mhm,
cover a lot in the Midwest too,
mhm,
and
mhm.
I think it's gorgeous. It
Me
is
too.
absolutely
Mhm,
beautiful, and people are so down home and real, authentic,
mhm.
friendly. Just here, come on, come eat this and try that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was just every time we go out that way, we have a really good time. So Grand Rapids, you'd say, is a family-friendly
Oh,
destination
definitely.
then.
And
Okay.
it's, I think, as close as 40-minute drive to Lake Michigan from Grand Rapids too, so we had never been out that way, and we had a rental car, and we actually got off the flight and just went right to the lake to dip our toes in and say we did it.
But it does look like the ocean, doesn't it?
That was mind-blowing. The kids couldn't understand. I was like, "It's like an ocean, but it's not, but it's freshwater," and yeah, we all
Yeah.
had that was a beautiful moment too, that was so fun.
And the history of what
Mhm,
happens in the Great Lakes is
mhm.
incredible. I mean, the War of 1812 and all of
Yeah,
those things. I mean,
mhm.
that's something cool for them to see, like, hey, there's lighthouses at a lake,
I know, my
you know?
husband's a big history nerd, and he's already started to plan plan the trip back so we could see some battlegrounds and do things like that.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical. Well, but does that change for them in regards to, do you see your kids start to get excited about history when often in school we kind of shut down and go like,
Mhm,
this is so
mhm.
boring. And then when you go places, it's like, ooh, wait a minute, this is kind of interesting.
Sure. I think, again, yeah, trying to bring in connections between the past and the present. So my husband's from England originally,
Oh, okay,
and,
cool.
so we lived in London for a few years before kids, and we have a big connection there, and his family is English, but they've moved to South Wales. So I've brought the
Okay.
children every year for the last 3 years. We've done a big UK trip.
Cool.
But this year was great. We went to Caerphilly Castle in South Wales, and that really blew my 5-year-old's mind because she said, "I'm sorry, did princesses live here?" And I said, "Sure." And we had to kind of get into that a little bit, but she was with her aunt out there who is a painter, and they started drawing pictures of the castles and sitting out in the sun, and they had places where the kids could dress up in the medieval clothes, and they had a lot of interactive things, so anything where they can get, what do they call it? Not textile, tactile,
Yeah,
anything where they can touch and kind of feel more connected to it. That was a really great experience for us. And it's good
yeah.
for me to use my brain too, because I have young children. I have two brain cells to rub together these days, but now I'm having to pay more attention because I've been to this castle probably a half a dozen times now because we've been going back to the UK a lot. And definitely hadn't been paying attention as much as when my daughter started asking all these questions. So it's a win-win.
We lived in England for about a year and a half, and, I was about, I'd say 7, 8 years old, and
Mhm.
I got hooked on castles and went to every single one in England, Scotland, and Wales that we could, and then collected postcards. I had to get a postcard, and I still have them, and they're in our storage unit. I have a collection of
That's amazing.
castle postcards. It's kinda crazy, but that was my thing, and that's where I think one of the first times that I was horrified, like, you go down in the dungeons and you see where the guillotines, and
Mhm.
you see markings on the wall inside the cells, the jail cells, and as a
Wild.
kid, you're like, "Okay, what they talk about in history books, like, this is
Right.
for real, man. This stuff happened,"
Right.
and it's gory, but and at the same time, you're just fascinated, whereas when it's like, "Oh, they just chopped his head off in the book," you're like, "Alright, they chopped his head off," but then, like, you see it, you're like, "That's real."
That's really, yeah, yeah. We've skipped the London Dungeon. We're gonna wait.
There's time, like, yeah, you don't wanna take him to Paris and put him
Yeah.
in the catacombs,
Oh
right?
my
No, no,
gosh,
no.
yeah.
That
No,
you'd
but,
have
and I try
nightmares.
to be honest
Oh,
with them for sure, but at the same time, yeah, we're gonna slow roll how,
yeah.
I mean, they had this really interesting kind of, I don't know how to describe it, like a 3D video type thing that was projected down onto this map in the castle, and it showed a big battle, and all of a sudden she started asking questions like, "Oh, well, what are those people bothering the castle for?" I said, "Okay, well, we'll get into that later." But yeah, no, I think them it's such a gift for them to be able to see this and me trying to let them know like this castle had been standing for centuries and kids have a
Yeah,
warped sense of time or space, but at the same time it is really interesting to see them. They're just sponges, obviously. She's
yeah.
remembering stuff from these trips that I already don't remember, but it's great. I have like my own little index of a 5-year-old to remind me.
I think it's cute though. But don't you think like also museums have changed over the last 10 years to become and it actually stimulates the adults too. Like you're
Mhm.
talking about as adults, I remember going on a hike with a friend and his little daughter. And she just wanted to see every plant because she believed that these were fairy houses. And so each plant had a different kind of fairy that matched the fairy
Mhm.
dress. And I was like, you know what? This is really cool to slow down and,
Mhm.
talk fairies. Why not?
It's
And so
amazing.
then
Yeah.
you look and you'll see like a hawk fly over. We were at
Mhm.
we were in Point Reyes National Seashore,
Mhm.
I remember, and going, okay, now that's hawk. She goes, oh, we gotta protect the flowers because they've got to protect the fairies from the hawk. And I'm like, this is a really cool way of her learning the web of
Mhm.
life. So I think museums have really started to try to not be so don't touch, even if maybe having replicas out instead of the real deal, just for kids to be able to have that tactile thing, but then have animation and things to open your brain up a little bit more and get it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we've been very lucky to go to some pretty amazing museums, and it's so wonderful when they have this place that the kids can kind of use all their senses to really take it in. Because I
Yeah.
mean, same, even with adults, I can conceptualize like, wow, this artifact's super old, and it's great to see that and kind of feel the
Mhm.
importance of that, but at the same time, I think it's old. So it is nice to be able to have all that at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I was thinking too of places like Las Vegas,
Mhm.
because they've been really, it's been like the adult Disneyland for, you know,
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah.
But then
The
they
family.
started, yeah, now they really started to push family. And I'm like, how are you going to do that with smoky casinos? But they are doing it, huh?
They are.
Have you done that?
We have so it's funny, we are going to Vegas next year, but I don't think we're bringing the kids, so don't tell them.
Okay. They want to
My
have the adult
Well,
experience
yeah,
now.
my husband really likes Las Vegas, and I haven't been since, gosh, I was
Oh,
very, very young and very, very broke, so I'm excited to go back with adult money. But I think I have a cousin getting married. It's gonna be really chaotic to maybe bring the 2 kids.
the hangover thing is going to happen? No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Oh gosh, I hope not.
Well, it's a wedding. I'm like,
No, I know, I know. Oh my gosh. Well, we try, if we can, my husband and I, to do 1 trip, the 2 of us, every year, which is really tricky with the 2 small kids, but we're really lucky to have a great network, and I know
oh,
that's
that's
a
cool.
a big privilege, but yeah, we really try to make it happen, which is great. So I think that's gonna be our trip, the 2 of us next
Oh,
year, which is exciting.
so that's a really good thing to talk about for
Mhm.
families is to have some balance. So you have some, human time.
Yeah. Adult conversations
Yeah,
from
yeah.
not singing
Like
the
you can dress
ABCs.
up in Vegas and,
I know. Can
yeah.
you
So
imagine? Yeah.
is that an important thing to do for as a parent?
For me, it is hugely important, and I wasn't sure how it was all gonna look. I mean, that was a big conversation me and my husband had because we've always been big travelers. Like when we lived in London, we go to Europe, European countries
Yeah,
once or
you
twice
just
a
hop
month.
over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. And we've always done those types of things. And I said, gosh, how is this going to look now if we're going to have a family and have children? But again, for me, it's a huge priority. So I said, well, if this is going to be a priority for our family. We're going to have to figure this out, especially with me, because I used to go on traditional press trips all the
Yeah.
time. That's tricky with the kids. Obviously, I'm not bringing them to be able to join a group. So I have to do a
Yeah.
little bit more individual
Yeah.
trips, which is fine. But sometimes that takes a little extra planning. And I do miss hanging out with the industry people. Yeah, I mean, me and my husband just try to check in as much as we can. I say, listen, I had to go to a conference this year in July in London, and we finagled that. He works full time also,
Oh,
remotely though, which is nice. So we can kind of be a little bit flexible. So yeah, I just try to find a balance where at this point, I'm probably doing, I don't know, 2 to 3 trips ish without like for work specifically, just for me, maybe 3 to 4 with the kids, and then we try to do the getaway with the 2 of us, which I usually still write
mhm.
about.
Wow,
So
so
yeah,
that's something almost every month.
I'm
I mean,
shocked.
look.
That's how it's panned out. I just kind of had a mental look at this year, and I thought, gosh, this is bananas. I had no idea we were gonna be able to pull it off. I mean, some are short, like Grand Rapids was 3 nights, they're quicker trips,
Mhm.
but we're trying to take advantage too of they're not in public school yet, so we're,
Oh.
they're young, but this is going to be the most flexible we're ever going to be, because we plan on doing public school. So we're going to be beholden to school breaks eventually, which makes me nervous. But yeah.
It's gonna be fun. I mean, I think a lot of parents end up traveling just because kids get into sports and will be traveling for sports games and things like that. So it's a whole different thing,
Sure.
but it's
Travel.
interesting how travel sneaks in. It is. It,
Mhm.
it does. But do
Yeah.
you have any tips for, parents taking their kids on long airplane trips and things? Like, do you look at that too? It's like, how long are the kids going to be in the car? How long are they going to be on an airplane? And, I know my mom took me to Kenya when I was a year and a half old, just
Amazing.
her.
Wow.
And she
Wow.
went to go work there. And here I am, little, I could, walk, but it was, and to take me, flying, I think she went from LA to New York to Paris to,
Yeah. That's
so she had
amazing.
her suitcases, she had them tied together, would hold me and
Woo,
roll the
yep.
suitcases, all tied together. But apparently I
And you
fell
were
asleep
probably on her lap too, right?
in the plane going from, I think from Paris to Kenya. I'm not sure which one it was, but apparently my toes got in some Frenchman's beard and curled all up in his beard. He wasn't that happy about it, but
Oh, that's
apparently
so
my feet
funny.
were warm.
That's
So
a
things
story.
happen.
They sure
You know,
do.
with kids, I mean, it's not that easy. I mean, because
No.
kids get sick, they, all kinds of stuff. So,
Yeah.
any tips for, planning that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna sound negative, but I just always have super low expectations, and then I'm pleasantly surprised when things work out. That's just kind of the mentality, I think, if you're gonna try to have kids outside of their element. I really try to just say, "Listen, it is what it is, and if things happen, which are going to, we're gonna take it as they come." So, I mean, practice is really the only thing, like, I didn't do this, but I've heard people who have children and they go on like a practice flight, they'll try to find a flight that's like an hour or two max and just see how it works logistically of going through security, of gate checking a stroller, of just kind of getting comfortable with that. And if it goes well, they say, great, now we can maybe go do the longer trip.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, so I mean, I tried to do some research on the logistics and whatnot in the beginning, but I have to
Well,
go through it. I know you
yeah,
can't prepare. And also just know that everything's a season, I feel
yeah.
like every trip is different with these kids, that my first child we brought on a plane when she was 6 months. And that was so
Right.
stressful. That first one, I said, oh gosh, I don't know what I'm gonna do or how this is gonna work. And I had bottles and it was nuts. But then that was a lot. The next flight was a little less and then a little less. But then we added in the second and then it was chaos again. So then we had to adapt and figure out how to do it with two. But again, it's changed. This trip actually to Michigan was the first trip where my 2-year-old had her own seat because she was officially not a lap infant anymore.
Oh,
And that was good. It was a mixed bag because it was nice that I didn't have to try to hold it's not an infant, a toddler in my lap, but at the same time, she didn't want to be in the seatbelt. She didn't understand that for takeoff and landing. But I try to talk to the kids too. They understand more than I think they're given credit for, especially with my first one. We bought books about going on a plane. We watched Mr. Rogers' YouTube videos of how to get on an airplane with kids. I really said, this is what's happening. And I think that was great. We got to the airport and she'd say, oh, I know this is the gate. And like, that's, the flight attendant. And it made her more comfortable to
mm.
be able to recognize those things and not have it all new and scary. And I think that kind of helped her mood for sure. So that
It
helped.
makes them, yeah, feel like they know something, and
Yeah,
it's comforting,
sure.
but also
Yeah.
like a little treasure hunt. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And I think I got always excited about trips. I
Mhm.
got so excited that I never could sleep the night before
Yeah.
because I was so excited about going, which drove my mom nuts because then you know what the next day is like. When
Right. Right.
children
Right.
don't sleep, it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
but
Sleep is
sometimes
a
that
big
that
thing.
works on a plane, though. She's asleep, that's great.
Yeah.
Backseat of the car, she's asleep, great,
Mhm.
so it
Yeah.
can work out, but
Yeah, and
yeah.
you have to just figure out again, not only do you have to adapt, you also have to figure out where you're gonna give. So I feel like, you might have to invest more time or a little more money or something else is gonna have to give if you wanna travel with your family. For example, one of my big things, and it sounds a little privilege maybe, but I love having when the kids have a separate sleep room. Families can do all 4 or more in the same room. That is not working for us right now in the season we're in. So I do everything I can to make sure that we have separate spaces, especially when I'm on a work trip with the family, that's something I had, I spoke to Grand Rapids about, and some of my other partners, I say, listen, I really think this is going to be the best for everybody because sleep was so important to them and to us when we're shaking up the routine. And then I also I do whatever. I do a lot of, I won't get into all of it, but I do a lot of points and miles type things and try to maximize that. So, when I
that's
try
smart.
to book hotels that can help with that, for example, like Hyatt will give you a discount as a family on the second room if you want to book it. They'll give you like 25% off at some hotels. There's a lot of like little tricks and tips you can do to make sure that you have space. Or we just do, vacation rentals because that also is the season we're in so that they have their own bedroom.
Oh, yeah, and then you can cook, and if someone's
Yeah.
not well or
Yeah, it's
yeah,
huge for a
yeah.
family, especially
Yeah, I was
little ones.
thinking a bed and breakfast, not so much.
No, we'll go back to that someday, but for
That's
now, yeah, I miss a B&B, but, we did try that once with our toddler. It was fine, but I think it's more comfortable for us to be in more
Well,
space.
a lot of hotels do have that adjoining room,
They
so,
do.
it's
Mhm.
not like they're completely shut
Sure.
out, you know what I mean?
They had to be
Just
a little bit older. I have a monitor. I always travel
mhm,
with a monitor, but,
mm,
yeah, I think just now they're able to kind of be in the room,
okay.
not destroy it.
Now, do you get travel insurance as a family
Oh,
too
yeah.
when you go overseas? Okay, okay.
Yeah. Pay
You
an
have a good
annual
one.
fee. I also have credit cards that do cover a lot of the insurance, but I make sure we have some extra, especially with the little kids and all the variables, because we have gotten sick
Yeah,
several times in
yeah,
foreign countries. Luckily, haven't had to like do anything emergency yet, but for sure. I mean, even for myself now, when I travel solo, I definitely buy more insurance than I used to just to keep my own peace of mind and make sure I get back in one piece for my kids.
because anything can happen, you
Yeah.
know?
Mhm,
Yeah,
yeah.
especially in foreign countries, that's a whole new thing. How
Mhm.
are they about, understanding a mom's needs in a foreign country? I mean, because I mean, even changing diapers in different places, that kind of thing, even breastfeeding for moms when they travel, everyone's a little
Mhm.
different. So you have to kind of, do you bone up on that before you go, or you just go see what's going to happen is going to happen?
Sure. So I love domestic travel and I love being in the US. It's wonderful. And we've had we travel the most in the US. I think the kids have been to 8 or 9 states already collectively. I do want to say I think generally kids are treated more inclusively abroad in other countries. That's what I've noticed. And I feel like it's been really positive for us to be able to I feel like having the kids out in public is a little more accepted.
Yeah,
And I am lucky, knock on wood, my kids are pretty well behaved. But at the same time, I don't know. We were in London, for example, with the children, and my husband wanted to go to a pub because, he's from there and he was so excited. And we cautiously went in. We're just going to have a half pint for the day. And we had a 9-month-old baby at the time. And the first thing we did when we walked in, a woman came right up and said, "Look at this darling." And I feel like that doesn't happen everywhere, and then he said, "Oh, it's her first pub," and then the whole pub was said, "Baby's first pub," and they bought us drinks, and it was just, like, the sweetest thing. It wasn't nighttime, it was an appropriate time to be there. I felt like it was so sweet. We had another moment in Costa Rica when I had one child at the time who was 2, and we were having lunch, and she was being a little wiggly and squirrely because she's 2, and we were
yeah.
outside. Yeah, and the server comes over and she said, and I speak a little Spanish, and she said in Spanish, "Your daughter's adorable. Does she like Frozen, the movie? Would she wanna watch it with me so you guys can finish your lunch?" I said because it wasn't very busy, I said, "Okay," and she sat at the table next to us, and then a couple other servers came over, and they hung out with her for, almost an hour while
Oh
we
my
had an
gosh.
I know, and they just were I said, "Oh, you do not have to do this, you're not obligated." That's never happened to me in the US. Of course,
See, yeah,
people smile at my children and are, mostly kind, but I don't know, they
but
love
there's
seeing kids
a
out and
weird
about.
thing in this
Mhm.
country with fear. It's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
fear-based. You don't know, like, I was in the grocery store the other day, and, this couple had 2 little kids in their little cart, and they were like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I'm going shopping. What are you doing?" And then I realized, "Oh my gosh, you're talking to somebody's kids. You're not allowed to do that." Like, they're gonna like,
Yeah.
"What are you doing with my kids?" And I
Mhm.
get all that. I understand the fears, but I was raised in a village, basically. And it's like I couldn't get away with anything. I
Mhm.
did, but I always got caught somehow because
Same.
there's the
Yep.
network and, it's like I always got caught somehow, somewhere,
Mhm.
some parent knew this. Everybody
Everybody's
knew,
watching. Yeah, and
everybody
helping.
was watching.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
if parents had a party, the kids were there. We were
Mhm.
there. And, adults are drinking, carrying on, having their barbecue,
Yeah.
whatever. And so it was all ages where, and I was raised mostly in Africa and that's how it
Mhm.
was.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's like if you were misbehaving, it was okay if an adult that is not a
Mhm.
parent to say, you'll stop that and maybe they'll call your parents or whatever. But if you're doing something wrong, it was known that an adult can say oi. And
Yep. Yes.
the oi word would come out quite a bit.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
we
it's a shame. I mean, I don't know. That's a big thing with a lot of new moms. I mean, I'm still newish, but I mean, there's not a lot of village left, and I think, there's a lot of things I could say about that, but that's one of the challenges with traveling with families, or trying to get away. I try to champion, please, especially moms, like take a weekend, take an overnight, take longer if you can. But a lot of moms write to me and say, "Gosh, I wish I could. I don't have anybody to watch my kids or anybody I
wow.
trust." And it breaks my heart. It's a shame that we don't have those resources and moms don't feel like they can, you know, be
Sure.
themselves outside of being a mom. It's really tricky for sure to
Yeah.
find that these days. And same with like you said, I feel the same way. It's like, oh, am I allowed to step in if this kid's being misbehaving? It's very tricky now for sure. And so it is nice
Yeah.
sometimes to go to other countries where there's still a bit of that village spirit.
To
I
talk
don't have
about,
any offense if my kids being out of line,
yeah, this,
tell them.
yeah. And it was never like, you may get the oi to stop
Mhm.
something that you may need to stop.
Sure.
But it was always like, we don't do this because of this, this, this. There was always some
Mhm.
kind of nice explanation, not trying to parent. So
Mhm.
and even, older teens would parent and help,
Yes. Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
like it
all
was
those
kind of
things.
a responsibility and
Mhm.
babysitting goes around with all ages. And it was kind of you will do this as you're
Sure.
growing up.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a thing, that I do touch upon, in my work is also that trust and figuring out what your level of comfort is because there's such a spectrum in family
Mm,
travel. Some people say, "Hey, we're on the road with our kids. We're gonna stay with our kids." Some people say, "I could be okay with them being at a kids club, for example, at a nice
right. I was
resort."
going to ask that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some will bring, if you're really lucky, they bring a nanny or something like that. But a lot of people are into au pairs,
Ah,
where you have like you know, maybe an older teen, early 20s. I was an au pair in
oh,
Spain
cool.
actually for a minute. And, I try to offer some creative ways that, again, you can have a lot of quality time with your kids on your trip, but then also hopefully have some time to
Mm.
yourself to enjoy a destination or just rest because that's should be what it's for. But.
Yeah. I think it's great when you have grandparents.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And it seems that that's what's happening in travel. So much multi-generational travel is happening, and the grandparents are like, go on, loves, you go do this. I'm going to hang out with them here at the art gallery or whatever it is.
Yeah, we
That's
do a lot of
lucky.
generational trips. That's a huge thing that we cover. And that goes back to what I was saying about making sure everyone's kind of happy on the trip and having a good time, where finding destinations and places and experiences where grandparents are having a good time, the parents are having a good time, and the kids are, having a good time is can be tricky. That adds a whole other element. But oh yeah, we're a big proponent of having more hands to help. And
Yeah.
you have to ask, like, if it's not grandparents, I've brought a friend who wanted to come with us who likes my kids. She said, "Yeah, if I'll come." And just having another adult, and she doesn't have children, she likes to be with us. Like, you never know.
Yeah.
You can make your own village. if you're, if you just kind of say, hey, I'd like support, or hey, would you ever want to travel with us? Or, I love traveling in packs. That's
You
kind
too
of
can
our
be part
jam
of the
now.
village people. Yes.
Right.
Well, it is fun and you can still split off and do your thing. That's the beauty of that. I think and it's great for kids because it's getting them to, and they often behave better actually
Oh, yeah.
with other. Isn't
They're
that
angels
wild?
with everybody.
Yeah. And they're getting a different perspective, maybe from someone, elder is going to give them a different perspective, like, oh yeah, this is what telephones look like in my generation. Or we didn't have them back then. No, I'm kidding.
Can you
But
imagine?
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So they're getting
Mhm.
a different perspective, and kids also remind us to be youthful in life when you travel. It's like open because as we age, our brains start to close. Our minds, our hearts, everything we
Mhm.
kind of get because we've been through things and we know things aren't just all peachy perfect, but kids remind us to have that optimism and then just to really experience all that wonder in the world and
Yeah,
have
it's
pure
been
wonder. Yeah.
there you go. Yeah, it comes around full circle. I mean,
Yeah.
that has been it's definitely harder, obviously, to be on trips with the kids versus when I used to be on my own, but I'm so glad I get to do all of that, in different ways. Like, it's been so great. I mean, the ways that my girls just interact with everything and things like you were saying, you wouldn't even notice that
Yeah.
they find, like when we were in the gardens, they found there's a little door you can go through to the kids thing that's right next to the big door. Little things that I wouldn't notice, and it's so nice. And also, it's really nice. Kids don't need huge flashy things and
No.
rides and tons of junk food. They really like just the little things that they see, the flowers that are different than from home,
Mm.
maybe even the french fries that just taste a little bit different than the home
Yeah,
french
they're
fries.
out in the different shapes or something,
Right.
you know. And I mean,
Overthink it.
isn't that at Christmas time everyone gets excited about,
Mhm.
the very first Christmas and then Christmas comes and they just really are into the wrapper and the boxes more than the gifts, it's
Yep.
kind of like cats.
Yeah, it's true.
Look,
We're
cats
a lot
today.
like cats. Yeah, they're into
There's that
everything.
you're right, actually. Then at some point they turn into dogs. Okay,
Mhm.
everyone's going to think we're weird, but it's
Agree.
true. Well, I think that's what's so cool about like our national park system, how they have the
Mhm.
junior ranger
I
programs
love
and
that.
like the passport plan. So kids get into that. It's like, I want to collect those, passport,
Yeah.
stamps, and I want to
Mhm.
do the Junior Ranger program. And half the time as adult, I do them because I learn and you start to look at things like, like in Sequoia National Park, I think it was the first one we did a Junior Ranger program. And that's with our
Mhm.
travel mascot, who is a pink sock monkey called Priscilla.
Cute.
And so she had to do it, which means we had to do it.
Mhm.
And, you started to look at things like, oh, that's not just a sequoia tree that's this big. Now you're doing this whole thing on them. And I don't know,
Yeah.
you just really get more connected to the place through those kinds
Yeah.
of projects. So do you
It's
do that with your
definitely
kids? You were
we
talking about
do.
having books after, but
Mhm.
during those kinds of, do you look for those kinds of games or even like having an app on phones to look up bugs and plants and stuff?
Yes, we definitely do. We went to Roman baths in South Wales, and that was I said, "Oh gosh,
Oh,
she's not gonna be into this." And we walk in, and the woman behind the desk immediately says, "Okay, we need your help." And they had set up this whole scavenger hunt in the museum for the kids, with these little, I don't even know how to describe, almost like a diorama, like
okay.
little scenes, and they'd have to hit a button. It was this whole thing. I didn't She was with her older cousin, and I didn't see them for an hour. They were just running around and figuring this out. It was great. And then
Wow.
it was so, yeah, I think that's so important to involve them. And we do love national parks. My parents snowbird sometimes so we've done Saguaro National Park with the girls a couple times, and in the junior ranger program. And it's so great, and it's so enriching to kind of have these programs to think a little beyond just of what they're
Mm,
looking at. I think it staves off the boredom. It's
yeah.
like, yeah, if we bring them and they think seeing a cactus for the first time is really cool, but then, they might be kind of over it quicker. But if they have all these things to kind of think about and the connections of what they're seeing versus the nature side of it and the history of it, yeah, I think that keeps the kids engaged.
Yeah, and do you think it also helps you as a family to realize what their interests are? Like
Mhm.
what their likes, dislikes, and you can start to see, as they're real young right now, but the more you travel with them, you're going to see what they are focused on and what want to do as a career even down the road.
Sure, 100%. I mean, my husband's more outdoorsy than me, but I've been trying to tell him,
Well, there's
or
glamping.
I do love glamping. I love glamping.
Hmm.
Yeah, we need to get the little one potty trained before we do more glamping. Gets real weird right now. We, again, it's like the practice. He wants to.
Okay.
He loves hiking. My husband, we both turned 40 this year, so we did two big trips separately this year.
Oh,
He did hiking in Zion and Las Vegas, and I went to Panama and Colombia. So that was
wow.
pretty amazing.
Both of you sound
We're
awesome.
very different trips. I was more at a pool, but I did hike a little bit, but I digress. So, he's very excited about the idea of the girls hiking with us someday. And I said, we need to do small local hikes, and we need to make sure, that they're used to those types of environments so that they do find an interest in it. Because, I did a lot of road trips when I was a kid, and I do have fond memories of it, but I also feel like I remember I went when I was 16 to, out west to Bryce and that kind of thing. And I had my arms folded a lot because I don't
Oh,
feel like I didn't know what to expect. I don't know. I just wasn't involved in the itinerary. Like I didn't really know what was happening. So I'm
uh,
hoping to kind of have them have a natural interest in it, instead
mm.
of just saying, well, you're going to like it because we like it.
Yeah, that's
So
it. Yeah. You've got to find something where they blossom. Yeah.
sure,
Well,
sure.
and
And
I know like right now, with America 250, such a
mm,
huge celebration, and you're up in New England, and
mm,
there's so many Revolutionary War sites, and they're trying to do things for kids to
yes.
get them to understand what,
Mhm.
that's all about.
Yeah,
So I don't know, you can take them to Boston and play Tea Party,
for sure.
throw
I
tea
grew
off.
up I mean, Boston's great for kids. It's a great city for children. There's so much going on. They have beautiful museums. And then I feel like with the university culture, there's a lot of free things to do on those campuses. I mean, you can bring kids to Harvard and kind of have them check it out. And there's all sorts of really great things. And then I am from the town next to Plymouth, Massachusetts, where the Rock is and the Pilgrims and
I'm
everything.
glad that you're on just, before Thanksgiving. This is perfect.
We are America's hometown. So we are, yeah, there's always a lot going on. It's really fun. We take them to the Thanksgiving parade in Plymouth every year,
Oh,
which
wow.
is really fun. So, and there is the Plymouth Patuxent down here as well, where they have like the reenactment villages for the pilgrims. Those are great things for children, where they have the
Mm.
actors kind of in period clothes and,
Living history is the best, man.
yes,
Even when you see it as an adult, you're like, "Holy cow, how did all those people sleep in that one little bed?" kind of thing, or
I know.
you're just like, "What?"
It does. It definitely puts perspective for sure. Same with, yeah, we went with my daughter and, she saw them playing with a stick game or something like that. And I said, sometimes that was all they had to use their imagination with. And that
That's
kind of blew her mind.
yeah, right. It's like we didn't have, Frozen on a screen,
I know, right?
that's amazing. Well,
Yeah.
it's so interesting with IFTWA, the International Food Wine
Mhm.
Travel Writers Association, that I'm seeing more and more travel writers talk about family and
Yeah.
family trips, whereas, that was kind of like left off the
Mm.
travel media
Mhm.
marketplace kind of thing in writing. It was always, the best hotels and the Robin Leach,
Yep.
the rich and famous kind of thing.
Oh,
I
those
mean,
two.
yeah, I know that was fun, but it was always men in travel writing. And now we're seeing the last 15, 20 years, more women and blogging open the doors. And it took a while for people to take blogging seriously, but
Mhm.
it's really
Mhm.
become careers, and you can have
Yeah.
your own business like you doing it,
Mhm. Mhm.
taking journalistic roots and putting it into a blog and being able to live off of that, and
Sure.
make an income and still explore, right? So
Mhm.
it's not like we're all making thousands and thousands of dollars doing it, but we're traveling. We're all traveling and having a good time doing it. But I feel like now we're seeing the next wave is families and travel, whereas that you
Mhm.
just didn't, unless someone specialized in a family friendly book, you just didn't see as much on,
Mhm.
travel writers focusing on family. I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe is it just me, or because
I
I
think
don't,
I agree. I think, there's this kind of I mean, I'm an elder millennial, this kind of generation that are having children. I think that we're pushing for a bit more. We're trying to evolve a bit more to say, okay, we want to have steady income, obviously, but we want to like have more opportunities for our children to be expansive and
Mm,
worldly, hopefully. I think that a
yeah.
lot of people are starting to do that. And we're starting to push back a bit and being like, okay, kids really are capable and we want this village. And in order to have villages, we need to bring these kids out and about.
Yeah.
We need to have them learn and have them, figure out how to navigate this world and to be a part of it. And I think all of that is coming into the traveling, which is why it's always been important to me as an adult to expand my mind. And now I think it's so essential for children as well to be able to be a part of that. And I think the industry is getting there, which is great too. That was another fear of mine. I feel like when I would go on press trips in my 20s and 30s, I don't know if I ever met a mom with kids at home. You couldn't do it. There it was too
Yeah.
hard to find a balance
Mm,
because of the nature of the job. But I feel like I'm seeing a few more who are saying, okay, I'd like to still do this. I need to find a way to do this, either again by pitching solo trips with the kids or just making room for these press trips that, are lucrative for work. I think
mm,
that moms are finding ways to work with their partners, work with the grandparents, work with paying
yeah.
people to help with the kids. And
Well,
it's encouraging, to see.
well, speaking of travel writers and being moms and everything, do you enjoy being part of IFTWA and having, other moms? I don't know if you've met any other moms through IFTWA.
Haven't
Huh.
yet, I haven't
Ah,
yet. I think I've been a member, I wanna say right before COVID, I might have joined, if I can
okay.
remember. I think I was looking for connection and getting back into some organizations, and I still love freelancing, so I think I applied traditionally with some of my bylines at the time. Yeah, I think it's just a great community. I love the vast array of talent that is represented in the organization, and it's fun. I try to challenge myself every year to get involved in one more thing. So I wrote for the FWT magazine last year, and that was really fun to work with Craig and the team. They're just so wonderful. And this year I'm on the board of judges for the photo contest, and I'm having fun kind of being connected in that way. And then also just following everybody on social media and see what everybody's up to.
That's how I knew about you
Yeah.
from social media. I'm
Yeah.
like, I've seen you. I love
I'm kicking
following
around.
all of IFTWA's,
Yeah.
posts and everything because you can just go if you're having a bad day,
Mhm.
just sit back and go on social media and see what all the travel writers of IFTWA are doing because they'll take you around the world.
I love
It's
it.
fun.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's
So
really great.
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been fun. And
Of
everyone,
course.
the links are in the episode notes, but you can go to purewonder.com. Also, IFWTWA.org to learn more about IFTWA.
We're working with Daytona Beach next month, so
Sweet.
that'll be fun. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the weather cooperates, but it'll be great. All 4 of us are going down, so it'll be great to be on the beach for a few days before Christmas.
Last time I was there, I sang karaoke with an Elvis impersonator.
Oh my
So
gosh. I
I'm
hope
just
that happens
giving
for
you,
us too.
it was cool.
It's a
So
fun
much.
spot. I've been a few
It,
times. It's great.
it is fun. Well, thanks so much. You take care.
Thank you. You too. Have a great one.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's Food, Wine, and Travel Show featuring members of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. We encourage you to visit their website. We say IFTWA, which is IFWTWA.org. You can also follow us at bigblendradio.com. Happy travels, everyone!